Evening. Our December 12, 2019 Longview City Council meeting is now called to order. Tonight, we are very privileged to have the invocation and pledge being led by Sadie and Leighton Stagner and Frankie Wright. Sadie and Leighton are granddaughters of District 5 Councilman David Wright. Please stand.
So is Frank.
And Frankie, yes, all three of them are. Come forward, please. Right. Yeah, come up here to there. You can go down the front too, David. You can go with them. Go stand with them. That'll be even better.
Dave. Please pray with us. Dear God, thank you for our city and for everyone in it. Thank you for the people who take time to look after it and help it grow, especially my big poppy. Give them guidance and wisdom for any decisions that need to be made today. Please continue to watch over our Longview and keep us safe. Thank you for everything you have given us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Say, please join us in the pledge.
Please join us in the pledge.
Please, go ahead.
You do it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There you go.
Sadie, Leighton, and Frankie, thank y'all so much for coming up tonight and helping us out. We really appreciate that. I know your big poppy was proud to be down there with you all. And we're glad to know what his little name is, too.
I'm sure glad that you do.
All right. Tonight, in employee recognition, we're going to recognize water utilities. The Water Utilities Department is responsible for the building and collecting of the City of Longview water, sewer, and sanitation accounts with combined revenues over $38 million annually. Each month, the staff obtains and schedules readings of all 32,000 water meters, prepares and sends bills to almost 30,000 customers, receives about 6,500 customer payments in the lobby and drive-through window, processes about 7,500 customer mail-in payments, securely accepts over 10,000 electronic payment transactions, and responds to over 6,000 customer phone calls for service and maintenance. The staff members present at this meeting are J.R. Romero, Sherrian Wilburn, Teresa Venters, Roberta Barber, Carolyn Johnson, utility billing survivor, Janelle Howard, and utility manager Willie Marshall. Y'all please come forward. How
you doing, Mr. Marshall?
Come on up. Let me just tell you something. This is about as fun a group as you're ever going to come around. Whenever I go down to their department, they are always having fun. It's just a great time. And, you know, that's so important when our customers come up to see you all, because that face that you all present to them is the face of the city. And you all take people that usually have a complaint or angry or something, and you turn it into a fun experience. And I really appreciate what y'all do. Y'all are amazing people. You do a great job. And did y'all catch the volume of what they do? That's an incredible volume that goes through this department right here. So thank y'all so much. Keep up the good work. Keep smiling, doing your job every day. Appreciate y'all so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you. What a great job. Great crew. Y'all are the best. Thank you. Y'all stay put. Hold on. Get a picture. Come on. How you doing? Come on. Come on up. Come on. Get a picture. Yeah, come on. Come on up. Perfect. He's new. Thank you. Thank y'all so much. Keep up the good work, gang. I'm going to come visit y'all again soon, okay? Tied to my community recognition, I'm going to recognize the Longview Ambucs. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Ambucs real quick. Longview Ambucs' mission is to inspire people to overcome challenges related to independence and mobility. Longview Ambucs invented a therapeutic tricycle to primarily aid with the therapy process for children with limits on their use of their lower extremities. Today, Ambucs nationally gives over 30,000 therapeutic tricycles worldwide that were invented and first produced right here in Longview. Longview gives away about 75 annually. The Longview Ambucs builds and installs about 25 wheelchair ramps annually to the local citizens in need, and it's free of charge to them. Since 1994, the Ambucs have provided $600,000 in scholarships to Panola and Kilgore College occupational therapy students, and in 2019-2020, Longview Ambucs provided $58,000 in scholarships to 29 students. They raise over $150,000 annually from local sponsors to fund their mission. So for many years, Ambucs has helped to produce and put on this annual Christmas parade through downtown Longview. They volunteer work through Longview Main Street coordinators to help lay out the order of the parade participants. Then they bring a crew of volunteers on parade night to make sure each of the 120 plus entries are staged in the correct place. They coordinate the organized chaos of bands, floats, kids on trailers, and shriners on miniature fire engines. The Longview Ambucs are volunteers working in the background that the parade crowds never see, but we thank them for their efforts. You guys please come forward, Ambucs. Please come forward. Let me just tell you, this is just a small group of them, but this group of volunteers, you all, this parade, it gets better and better every year. It's more fun. People are attending it. It's just a blast. And you know, it's great when our citizens have something they can come out and they can do and they can see and enjoy. And you all's volunteer effort, without it, it wouldn't happen. There's no way it could happen because you all keep people in line. You keep me in line. You tell me where to go and when to be there to speed up or whatever. So I really appreciate y'all because literally this parade is about Longview and you guys represent Longview. So thank you very much. Keep up the good work, man. Let's keep it going every year. It's a real joy to be around you guys and to always know that you're there taking care of the citizens. Thank you very much. Good job. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, buddy. Oh, come on. Come on.
It's working this time.
If y'all didn't go to the parade this year, you missed a great time. It was a fantastic parade. Huge turnout, great weather. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it very much. Can't wait till next year.
Who's that guy with a white head?
I don't know, some white-headed guy, I don't know. Okay. We are now to citizen comment. Tommy Finkley?
Tommy Finkley, 1202 Encore Circle, Longview, Texas, 75604. The first thing I wanted to talk about tonight was the Andy give you a props tonight. One thing that you are good at, one thing that I will give you credit for is that you are a energetic person. You give off a good personality. You give off a positive attitude. And I congratulate for you that, and I think you do a good job of that. But at the same time, I'd also like to point out a couple things. It's the end of the year. I thought it would be a good time to do like a review of what the council has accomplished this year. Because having a positive attitude and being the face of the community, that's all well and good, and that's an important part of your job, Andy, and council. But the other part is the business part. The business part of the city of Longview. And under this council right here, the city is over $400 million in debt currently. Over $400 million in debt because of the votes that y'all have passed. Let's do a little recap. The citizens of Longview spent $30 million renovating downtown. A private company came in and you gave them $600,000 that you won't get your $600,000 back if the project fails or if the project doesn't cash flow. They don't have to pay you for 20 years. So I don't know if you think that's a good investment or not, but at 0% interest, it's surely not a good investment, which you probably won't get your $600,000 back. Never happened in the history of Longview. Under this council right here, people sitting up here, the city of Longview's credit rating was downgraded for the very first time, 6 months before you brought your bond forward. So when we sold the bonds, the first $50 million, we actually paid more in interest than we should have, because 6 months prior, the bonding agencies lowered our credit rating. But y'all didn't tell anybody about that. The Fireman's Pension Fund, which Christian sits on as the council liaison, and Mr. Moore sat on for 30 years. 30 years you've been on that board. It's currently $185 million unfunded. It lost $12 million last year. And we've never had a discussion about it. You've never brought it for council. You've never said a word about it, Ms. Ishihara. Mr. Moore, you've never spoke a word about it. The Holiday Inn out on Estes Parkway, we bought for $1 million with our money. You spent $1 million tearing it down. You still haven't returned that $2 million to the taxpayers. The Waffle House development.
Time's up.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I hope y'all will take this under consideration and do a better job next year of trying to do the business of Longview. All these things are good.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker card is Mr. Winslow Coleman.
First of all, I want to give honor to the Most High, from whom all blessings flow. To Dr. Mack, you and I have more in common than you realize. I graduated from SFA in 1980. Did a bachelor's and master's there. I am the son of Roy Douglas and Pearl Coleman, lifelong members and residents of Longview. He's a World War II vet, and he's also a Union Pacific employee with the railroad for 30-plus years. Gonna keep it short. I know I don't have 3 minutes, but currently I serve as your president of the NAACP. Now, there's a lot of misconceptions about the NAACP. If you think the NAACP is a troublemaker, you do not know our real purpose. If you think the NAACP was created only by black people, you don't know the true history. So there's some things we need to learn here. This president will be equally concerned if a white citizen or white youth gets killed by the police and nobody has the gun but the police. It wouldn't matter to me whether the child was white or black. We're concerned about the equitable playing field, and we're concerned about fairness. People in this community have suffered long and quietly because they believe that their concerns would have no power and no weight. I do want to report to you that this NAACP currently is stronger with more members and more motivation and action than it's had probably ever back to the days of S.Y. Nixon. Those you guys that know S.Y. Nixon. So I'll be getting with you. When you see us coming, don't think it's a problem. We're here to make Longview better. But if there are problems, then we have to show them to us, and we have to work together to correct those. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Look forward to having you serve as the president as well, sir. Axum Jacks. I was class of 81. All right, we have discussion items. Discussion tipping fee increase at Rivers Recycling and review options. Mr. Archer, please.
Mayor, Council, Mr. Bonds. Tonight I'm going to talk a little bit of trash, or in this case it'll be recycling. As you know, let me get my slides up here. As you know, Longview has the largest recycling program in East Texas, bar none. Right now, we're at 50% participation rate throughout the city. There's some neighborhoods that are at 70%, 75%. It continues to grow. It's been very successful, and it really is because of the citizens. So just to give you an idea where we're at. Last year we sent out an FYI to council talking about the issues with recycling in the China market. I don't know if y'all remember seeing that. So I'd like to go through, it's continued to be a problem. It's continuing not only to affect the U.S. market, but now it's really affecting us locally. And so these are some things I want to talk about. In 2012, China was purchasing nearly 25% of all recycling that the United States collected. 25% went over there. So it was the boom days. Everything was great. You could sell it. You can get as much as you wanted. I mean, we were sending pallets of stuff over that a large portion of it was trash. And China had to do something about that. So in 2013, China issued a new customs program called Operation Green Force, and it was really an environmental program designed to cut the contamination that was coming over to China. And so at that point, they started turning away loads. You might send, as a recycler, you might load up a ship, send it over to China. It would get there. They would inspect the bales and say, the contamination rate's too high. Send that back. So as a recycler, you'd say, wait, I don't know if I want to take my chances with that. And so you might try to sell it here locally in the United States. And of course, a lot of folks did that. And so we started to see, just the demand was still steady, but the supply increased. And so the cost that we're getting paid for those recycled materials started to decrease. This is just a few of the headlines, if you look at that slide, that we started seeing after 2018 when China implemented their new national sword policy. And it was designed to cut recycling or anything that was any contamination whatsoever from coming into China. So they set their rate at 0.5%, which is nearly unheard of internationally, and it's certainly very difficult for a single stream MRF like we have here to meet that. I mean, normally if you can get 5%, you're doing really well. But it was a very big challenge for them. So many of the companies have decided to just sell here locally, not even try to attempt that, because at 0.5%, I don't know that a single stream MRF could have the technologies to get to that level. And so there's very few that can meet it. I'll show you another slide here. Just to give you an idea, this is January 17 through March of 18, just to show you what happened with paper and plastics. It was a major decrease, and they're just not buying that. So now that we kind of understand a little bit about what's going on with the market, I mean, when you have somebody that's buying 25% of all your recycled materials just quit doing it, it really affects the market. So let me kind of go through the changes that Rivers has seen. Now, this is our MRF. This is a material recovery facility that we send all of our stuff to. And so back in the heyday, when recycling was fantastic, we entered into an agreement with them in 2012, and they agreed to pay us $10 for every ton we took them. It was great for us. It helped cover our collections costs, because there's still costs associated with collecting recyclables. So it helped with that. 2015, now remember, this is just after Operation Green Force began. A couple years, it really started to affect the market, and they came back and said, we really can't do the $10 anymore. That's going to be tough for us to do. And understanding the market, we agreed, well, at least you're taking it, and the landfill's still $23. So this is a better deal for us to continue operating, and so we did. 2018, like I said, this was National Sword. This is when they cut it off, changed the contamination rate, and they came to us and said, we can no longer do it for nothing. We've got to have something. And so they said, we really need $20 a ton. Again, understanding what the market was like, we agreed to do the $20. So up to this point, really one thing to keep in mind, sanitation has continued to have some increases. We've had landfill increases, personnel increases, supplies, those kind of things. Stuff just continues to climb. So we haven't had a rate increase since 2015, just to give you an idea. And so we've had those additional increases, plus this tipping fee with recycling. Even recently, we had the landfill say, yes, you've been paying us for mattresses recently, but we're going to have to double that fee. So it's significant increases. But tonight, it's really about recycling. It's really talking about the increases we've seen there. So Rivers has come to us and said in 2020, starting January 1st, we'll need to get $65 a ton. So it's a significant increase. And it's really, it's not something that sanitation can bear anymore. We just don't have, we can't absorb that in and operate. So that's really why we're here, to discuss this, have a discussion about it, and then maybe we'll come back to you guys in January with some action based on what you say, hey, here's the direction we want you to take it. So we did put together some options, just so that you have some options, because it's extremely important to us that you guys have the options moving us forward. Which direction do you want us to go? So based on the cost we're seeing, if we had a rate increase of $2.50, we could continue doing what we're doing right now without any changes. The only thing that I would add to that, to keep in mind, that's at $65 a ton for our recyclables. Imagine we get to the $90 they're paying Pratt in Shreveport, or the 105 in Fort Worth, or the 120 in Dallas. Once those numbers start to increase to those points, we'll have to come back and see you again and talk about it once more. Second option would be to revise our recycling program so that it's a subscription service for $7 a month. If a person's excited, they really want to make sure they're recycling, they could sign up for the subscription. It'd be $7 a month, and then we would service those. My only concern there would be, I'm not sure how sustainable that would be for rivers when those volume changes to that point. So that would be the only thing I guess.
Can I interrupt you as we go?
Sure.
So we don't, okay, because I will lose what I want to say.
Sure.
Okay, back to number one. So increase the sanitation rate by $2.50 per month. That seems like a number where we're chasing an infinite number, a number that's not going to stay static. So if we come to the citizens this year and we go, if you want to keep recycling, it's $2.50 a month. Next year, it may be $3.50 a month. The next year, $4 or $8.50 a month. We don't have any control over that, correct?
We do not have any control.
So
Yes, sir.
that number is going to be an arbitrary figure that's going to only go up. It's never going to come down,
Right.
correct?
That is only based on $65. Yes, sir.
And if they went from 23 to 65 this year, chances are they're not come back to 23 next year.
Yes, sir.
So that's a concern when we have an option to go up $2.50 a month, but that's a Band-Aid on the dam, and that's never going to hold up. And is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I mean, in our assumption.
Right.
And our assumption has to be correct because we know what's going on in the China market. So I know that's an option, but that's not a very viable option for citizens of Longview. I wouldn't feel good saying we're going to raise your rates $2.50 a month, and then we're going to come back next year and say it's going to be twice that or 5 times that.
Right.
So, okay, so that's just how I'm viewing that. Am I off base, or is that correct?
That is correct. We're not seeing any new markets open up. The markets, like they moved to Malaysia and said, maybe we can get Malaysia to buy more. Now Malaysia said, no, we don't want your stuff either.
Okay.
So that continues to be the theme that we see.
Okay, sorry. Go on to number 2.
So number 2 would be that subscription service. So mind you, somebody's got to pay $7 to want to be a part of that recycling service. And so you can imagine that the volumes that we're collecting now would significantly decrease. And then, so how would rivers deal with that would be a good question.
Here's my question to this one. Okay, so this is $7 a month outside of their normal sanitation fee that they're being charged right now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so and that's saying that we're not really doing the recycling because we're having to pay $7 a month to do the recycling per customer, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so do we reduce the sanitation rate for those that don't go the $7 a month? Or does the sanitation rate stay the same?
It would stay the same. We're still picking up the trash. We're still
Okay.
taking care of those things.
Okay.
They still have access
Just
to
want
the
to clarify
compost
that.
site.
So
Yes.
that doesn't change. It says $7 a month on top of our already established sanitation rate.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question on that. If I have a sanitation bin, like right now I fill up my recycling more than I fill up my sanitation bin. So if I were to discontinue recycling, do we charge for an extra bin? Like, let's say somebody
Yeah.
stopped recycling, but they needed 2 trash bins then because you're essentially replacing it. They
We-
get charged for the second bin.
They do, yes, ma'am. So on number 3, so if we move to that and say, okay, we'll just end the service, it would not do us any good to leave the carts out there because we'd still have to service them. So the cost savings that we would see that would allow us to go to number 3 without any rate increase whatsoever, and we'd be able to cover any of those extra costs that we've seen other than recycling, we wouldn't be able to do that because we'd still be servicing all those carts that are out there. So we would have, part of our budget that we put together would be to go and collect those carts. So if somebody did want a second cart, there would be a charge for
Is it
an extra
$5
garbage.
a month?
$5 a month, yes, ma'am.
So in theory, if I filled up 1.5 now, I mean, I might pay $5 for an extra bin or $7 to keep my recycling bin,
Yep.
quite
true.
possibly.
I'm sorry.
Good.
That $7 is based on how many
We
subscribers?
based it on 10%.
Okay, so 10% participation.
Yes, sir.
So then if you go up, you may have to go up because their tipping fees go up. You may lose more of them. So then you may be down to 5%, so you may have to go way, way up on the subscription service.
If you did a subscription service and River survived that, I just need to say, so River survived that, and so we're in business, and their rates continue to increase, the $7 would have to change. And so what
But
that
if
number
more
would be.
people, if more than 10% subscribe, then the $7 would come down.
We figured this, so that's 10%, so once we get over 10%, I've got to put more trucks doing it. So that's a sweet spot where I can have 2 trucks managing that, but anymore, now I got to have 3. And then we're going to get to another sweet spot where I'm at 4. So it's not really, so if we have more people doing it, I can reduce that $7. It doesn't, other than if we had the entire city, then we can do $250.
So the same doomsday scenario that the mayor pointed out for the $250 per month would also hold true for the $7 per month going forward.
We have no control of the market.
Okay, now the discontinuing, would we save some costs there because we don't need as many trucks and crews to pick up one bin rather than 2?
Right. So if you look at some of the other landfill increases, labor cost increases, those things that have increased over the last 5 years, we would be able to, by discontinuing recycling, not have to have a rate increase in the near future, I wouldn't think, because we would have that savings from that to buy us more time. So we would be healthy, would be a healthy program going forward with just the trash without any rate increase, without recycling.
What does it cost for a trash? So it's $65 a ton for recycling. What is it for trash?
Trash is 23 at the landfill, right? 23.80.
So what are surrounding cities doing, Dwayne? Are they discontinuing? Are they going up? They increasing their rate?
Well,
What's going on around us?
There is a lot of cities that are discontinuing. There are some that are taking the recycling and they're taking it to waste to energy plant. I've never liked that idea. You burn it. I don't know that it's the right way to do it. There's better ways to get energy than to burn recycled materials. But they're all facing it. This year, this conversation is happening in a lot of councils because it's gotten to that point. Everyone has tried to do what they can, tried to nurse it along, but we're to that point where it's time to have the conversations. So I know there's a big push. There's groups out there saying, no, cities, you've got to stick with it. You've got to do that. The only thing they can say is just think there's certain jobs that are associated with that. Well, and it's a very difficult thing to say, well, we want to keep an industry alive just for that. Industries change. That's kind of the nature of the way things work. So, but they're all faced with the very same question.
So the option number 3 would be we discontinue our recycling program, we just pick up trash, and no rate increase. It's just business as usual, except we're not recycling any longer.
I'm going to be honest, that hurts my heart just to say.
I know. It's horrible.
And me too. I have always been pro-recycling. I really pushed this program for a long time. To be where we're at today, it hurts my heart as well. I don't like that this is where we ended up with, but I tell you, it was almost created, those pallets that we sent to China with all the trash in them created the problem. I mean, if they got a good product for what they were buying, it would have been one thing, but they had to cut it off. And so they were buying so much, and we were at fault. The recycling industry was at fault. And so-
Unfortunately, this is not something we decided tonight. This is a discussion item, it'll come back to us. But this is food for thought that we're going to all need to sit down and go through and vet this out very well, very, very thoroughly, because this is going to be an ongoing issue one way or the other. If you don't recycle, that's an ongoing issue, because then you're polluting the environment when we could be saving the environment better. Any other way is going to cost the citizens money that those that opt in, unless we do a mandatory increase, which
all three of those, none of them sit well with me. None of those sit well. Thanks for those three options, Dwayne. I hope you got option number 4 coming up in a minute, because I'm waiting for this next slide. Hit the slide, Richard. I want to see option number 4.
Go to the next one, right?
What percentage of, or I don't know if you know the number, but what percentage of the material that goes to rivers actually gets recycled, and what percentage ends up going to the landfill anyway?
I tell you, I visited MRF recently, but about 2 weeks ago I visited them. I don't know if y'all know what a dirty MRF is, and I hate to say this, but a dirty MRF is where all trash goes to a MRF and it's processed, and so all the recyclables are pulled out. It's a very dirty operation. There's just trash everywhere. When I visited a couple weeks ago, they were in that kind of condition. There was just so much stuff going on out there. The contamination rate that we have going on right now in our bins was leading to part of that. So they've gotten to the point with what we take them and what some of the other municipalities take them here, they've gotten to where they've got 2 30-yard roll-offs that go to landfill every day of just stuff that was in the cart shouldn't have been. Then you imagine now this is loaded up and it's carried somewhere, and then they sort through what they need out of it, and so a portion of it comes off. And you get down the road, there's a percentage. Now what that percentage is, I don't know, but it's certainly not. It's not like everything we put in our can is going to be recycled. It's not. It's probably closer to 10, 15%. Actually will get recycled at the end.
So if we discontinued the recycling program, realistically, we're not having that big of an impact on what's going in, maybe not our landfill, but into a landfill somewhere.
Right. I tell you, as a waste guy who's been in the business for a long time, we build landfills. They're these big clay bowls. They're lined with plastic. They've got systems in them that collect leachate and collect the air that's in there, and all the stuff's burned off. The materials that are put in that big bowl will still be there for a long time. So Denton recently thought, hey, here's a good idea. Now this was 2012, recycling market's fantastic. Well, let's go in there and mine that landfill. The stuff's still there. And so to me, taking it and putting the landfill is not such a bad thing, because it's still there. It's not been burnt in some kind of energy plant. Mm-hmm. It's still there. And when the time comes that it's needed, it'll be there. We know where it's at. So as a waste guy, I'm just not that concerned that it went in the landfill. Landfill's got a lot of life in it. It's got a lot of space in it. I'm not concerned with that.
I personally think there has to be that 4th option out there somewhere.
Yeah, I want to find it too. Yes, sir.
You seem like a smart guy. That you could probably go out there and find it. That might be a little bit more appealing than,
right.
Than
we have looked,
because we know we can't discontinue it. I mean, no one up here would want to see that whatsoever.
But it's going to come down to dollars and cents.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to dollars and cents, what it's going to come down to. And unfortunately, when you're talking about dollars and cents, every dollar matters to somebody. And so our job as a council is going to be to determine how we proceed with that. So, this is going to take some discussion. It's going to take some thought, some real hard questions, but
And this would be a really good one for public input. I mean, this is
Sure.
something that
Yeah,
I
I'm
would
sure we're
really
gonna
like
get
to
plenty of
hear
input.
from people about.
I have one more question. I remember when we first started the recycling program, and you had a program here, and I came down to it, and you were talking about who was going to actually do the recycling, and maybe Rivers had already started doing it, and then you had some company from Shreveport came over and wanted to.
They won't answer my calls right now.
Are they not a viable option anymore?
They are not. They're at $90.
Oh, okay.
So they're at $90 right now, and literally they've got what they want. They don't want any more.
So does this $65 go into effect January 1?
January 1, yes,
So
sir.
realistically, by when do you need an answer from us?
I thought if we came back January 9th for that meeting,
Yeah.
and we had some idea of what we wanted
we'll
to
have
do.
it as an action
that'd
item
be
on
okay.
January 9th. So we have about a month, gang,
Well, it
to.
sounds like you got your survey question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I do. I started thinking about that, right? So we have about a month to mull this over, council, and talk to your constituents and talk to staff. When you have questions, talk to staff. I know Dwayne's a wealth of information, and, he can go into a lot more detail than he can right here tonight. So we will have a month to mull this over and come up with some options on the 9th meeting. Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to talk volume? Like, what do we recycle per month now versus what goes to the landfill? Just roughly?
400 tons, And probably close to maybe what, Todd, 4,000?
4,000.
About 4,000 to the landfill.
4,000 to
Recycling?
Rivers a
Yeah.
year.
About a month for the landfill.
It was about 400.
Okay.
Okay, say that to me again.
It's 4,000 to the landfill and 400 to Rivers
Per month?
on a month, yeah.
400 tons to the
Rivers.
landfill.
No, Rivers.
400 to Rivers and 4,000 to the landfill. So
Okay,
about,
I see,
yeah,
I see.
10% of it's getting sent over there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, and I just want to make sure that I understand this totally correctly. So if I were going to continue using my same volume, I've got 2 bins now, and I fill up all of my recycling and half of my trash. If we discontinued the program and I needed to keep the second bin, I'd still pay an extra $5. My normal bill plus $5 to keep my second bin, which is I've been conditioned to use at this point in time, pretty much.
Yes.
Okay.
But I think the average family in Longview will find that 1 cart is
Really?
sufficient.
You just call me not average, Dwayne?
Not me.
Push it down more.
Straight up, bring that hardware very well.
All right, well,
Okay.
that's food for thought, gang, and we're going to have some discussion with this, I'm sure, in the next few weeks. Thank you, Dwayne.
Thank you.
Appreciate you very much.
Sure.
We have an update now on the Unified Development Code timeline. Mr. Shirley. If you don't have better news for us, just sit down.
Well, it's not as trashy. so
Good.
Hopefully it'll be a little better. Thank you, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Bonds, for the opportunity to provide you an update on the Unified Development Code and kind of go over what our anticipated timeline moving forward is. Just to kind of recap where we're at, Unified Development Code, the draft that we're working under, it's a compilation of existing ordinances, wants, and needs that were outlined in our comprehensive plan, as well as feedback from various stakeholder groups, elected officials, boards, and commissions that we've surveyed. So that's kind of where we've gotten the information from. Looking at our stakeholder meetings, what we received in 2018 was a full draft that we got. From that point, we moved forward, going out and presenting it to various groups, primarily working with the Builders Association. We met with SWEPCO. We had a couple of Q&A sessions with the Builders Association. We presented it to the Chamber of Commerce Executive Committee. We met with Centerpoint and Atmos, trying to get consensus on some things. We also presented it to the Main Street Board. And then we also had ETBA. They created some focus groups to dive into the ordinances and really provide some feedback. And then we met with them and got that feedback. From there, staff has been working diligently on that. And we've sent that information back to our consultants. We have recently, this last week, received our latest draft. We will be presenting that out to the community. It's going to be available on our website hopefully tomorrow, and we're going to be sending that out to the Builders Association as well in a track changes format for them to review. But moving forward, our timeline of what we anticipate. As I mentioned, we're publishing it tomorrow. On January 6th, we anticipate having all of our comments from the review back to Freese and Nichols. From that point, we anticipate having that turned around in about a month for our final draft to review. We anticipate February, March, going to Planning and Zoning Commission first with a workshop, and then coming back to them and asking them to review that and take action on it. And then our anticipated council consideration would be March, April of 2020. So we have a fairly aggressive timeline moving forward. However, before we get to that point, I do have an area that I would like to discuss with you. We've gotten a lot of feedback on the UDC, various areas that we've been able to get discussion on and kind of figure ways to move forward. One area that we've not, though, that is an issue that's facing many communities and is kind of a hot topic in the planning world is short-term rentals. I know we did address some aspects of what would be classified potentially as a short-term rental a number of months ago when we clarified some of our definitions dealing with how units are rented by the room and such. But moving forward, we do want to discuss this with you. And really with short-term rentals like the Airbnbs and VRBOs, those are some of the online presence that market these. There's really two types. There's the type where it's more of like a vacation rental where they rent the whole home. And then there's the home sharing where they rent out portions of the home where, by the room or like a mother-in-law suite. And so those are the two types. And what we want to do is we want to explore and allow these types of modern uses that are allowing flexibility, but we also don't want to compromise our neighborhoods either, which is something that's very important. So trying to figure out the best way to move forward there. So what we'd like to pose to you to get some feedback on and get better direction on is, should we regulate these and how should we regulate them? Currently the home sharing would be in conflict with how we define a single housekeeping unit. Renting the whole home is not explicitly a violation, but should it be? And, we don't get a lot of complaints on these. I know you can go on the different websites and see what's available out there in Longview. But we want to stay ahead of this too. I know it's something that larger communities are dealing with on the negative side. I know the legislature's kind of taken it up but not taken action on it with preemptions and so forth. But we did want to make you aware of it and get better direction and not make some assumptions there on how we move forward. And so those questions are, should we regulate them? Should we regulate them differently between the two kinds? How should we regulate them? And should we license or register them versus regulating them? And then one of the issues that comes into that is the hot money, the hotel occupancy taxes that come into play. And so I would be happy to answer any questions, and I would be available as well for discussion on that.
Any questions, Mr. Shirley? I know not too long ago, a year or so ago, we had this same discussion about renting homes in neighborhoods, and that was a big issue. I know with Mr. Purtle especially, and he's not here this evening, but I know that's something that we discussed and we frowned upon, that we did not want to disrupt neighborhoods by having leased spaces within the neighborhood and having multiple families within the same leased home. I think that's where we ended up with that. So I think we need to be careful how we approach this and make sure we don't step on our own feet because of what we've already decided, and make sure that's part of how we move forward.
Exactly.
So, and I do think there has to be regulation. You cannot just let this be a free-for-all. There has to be rules and regulations. Everybody has to abide by the same set of rules and regulations. So whatever we decide has to be uniform and consistent with anyone who's wanting to do these types of sources of income. So I think that's something we must have discussion on.
Absolutely. So moving forward, what will be coming for in the future is the deliverables, the Unified Development Code itself, and basically that's going to be our policy and procedure document. One of the things that we hear about a lot too is we need a document that doesn't have all the rules and regulations, but we need a book that has the directions on how to do it. And so the development guide is really going to be that process document that we'll be bringing forth as well, that we'll have available, and will be that guidebook for that. So I just wanted to provide y'all the update on that, and that we're going to be coming after the first of the year and moving forward with finalization of that. The draft is available at longviewtexas.gov/UDC, and we are available, any of the staff in the planning and development department, to answer questions. If you need a copy, like I mentioned, the track changes copy will be available. And if anybody has comments or wants to discuss on the short-term rental aspect, please visit our office as well. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. We look forward to seeing this thing continue to move forward and make it better for our developers in the community.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Michael, would you email this presentation to all of us, please?
I sure will.
Thank you.
Well, we have no public safety updates tonight. Both chiefs are out of town, so we appreciate whatever they're doing. I know they're doing it in good faith for the city of Longview. We're out of consent agenda. Any items council like pulled off for separate discussion?
I just have a quick question on one item.
Please, sir.
It doesn't need to be pulled, for Mr. McPhee. Item I, the replacement of the 10 million gallon per day raw water pump. Any reason why we only got one bid for that?
I can give a little bit of feedback and speculation. The first bit of feedback I'd give you is we opened these bids a couple of days before Thanksgiving holidays. Now, some might question why we did that. If you remember, we wanted to get this out in the raw water pump, obviously in our low usage period. So we kind of want to take those bids and make them relevant, and so that the timing was right for the work to be done. The other thing that I would tell you is that most treatment plant contractors, which that's the type of work this is, it's large pumps in pump stations, they really are more interested in larger projects because those are more geared towards plant and treatment projects. So a one pump job doesn't excite a lot of contractors. That would be the other reason. I would tell you the reason that I don't have any hesitation in recommending that bid, nor did the engineers, is that the actual engineer's estimate, the last design and updated estimate that we had, believed the job was going to cost us $542,000. So we're well under, over $120,000 below our expectation.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything else?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Action item, consider resolution suspending the effective date for 90 days in connection with the statement of intent to increase rates filed by Centerpoint Energy. Mr. Finley.
Yes, a couple of minutes to discuss the Centerpoint recent case, the rate case that they filed, that on or about on November 14th of this year, Centerpoint filed a statement of intent to increase rates by approximately a total of $6.82 million. What they're proposing is an increase in the base rates for residential customers, but a decrease for the base rates for commercial customers. Generally, the residential rate would be increased to $7.181 million. However, it's a net increase overall in the base rates of $6.82 million. They're also proposing a surcharge for 12 months to cover their expenses related to Hurricane Harvey, which would be 10 cents per customer on and for residential and commercial. That would collect about $235,000. That would go away after 12 months. Centerpoint's proposed increase in base rates plus its surcharge would be about a 5.5% increase if you include gas costs, or a 9.4% increase excluding gas costs. We've been a member of the coalition of cities in the East Texas region. It goes down to South Texas, and we've been talking to the attorney that represents it with us, and he suggested that we suspend the rate for basically a 90 days. That would allow us to be able to look at the data more thoroughly and get involved with it to see what, if any, of this rate increase should occur. And so with that, it would give us about 125 days for us to be able to review that material, meet with our consultants, and decide how we want to proceed further with this case. And so I'd ask that you take the resolution and approve its suspension for the 90 days.
Any questions, Mr. Finley?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Finley. Consider an ordinance amending section 4163 of the Longview City Code to authorize city manager's designee to approve projects in more than 50,000, not more than 250,000. Ms. Cohen.
Thank you. This item is a request for an increase for the city manager's contracting authority that was also discussed at the November council meeting. And at that time, cost savings information was requested. And so for FY 18-19, the estimated cost savings would have been approximately $13,000 for the 24 items that met the criteria. So on the screen are the requirements for this amendment. And at the top, you will see that we are asking for a threshold of $250,000. That threshold was determined by looking back at the FY 18-19 agenda, of which 32 non-competitive purchases were identified, and 75% of that, which are the 24 items, fell below the $250,000. That amount is a placeholder tonight and can be changed with the vote tonight. Council has also requested that we, for transparency purposes, add 3 more requirements. And those are the last 3 bullet points up there. And that would be that we would post in writing the expenditures at the City Hall and on the website, that the city manager would provide written notice of the expenditures to City Council, and that the council would have a chance to place any of those items on the next agenda. So with that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions, Ms. Cohen? And this is something we've discussed before, and I'm sad Mr. Pearl's not here. I don't know why he's not here, but I know he's had a lot of passion about this issue. And so what I want to do is make sure we're on the same page. And what I asked staff to do, which is what they've done, was to give us a rundown of the cost savings, because we did take this versus being a cost savings issue, and it does save $13,000, which is not a huge amount of money, but it's $13,000. It also expedites certain purchases that are non-competitive bidding, which aids in vehicles that might need maintenance, purchases that might have time sensitivity. It does help that in some cases. In certain months, we don't meet but once a month, and so those are months that this would help. Understand something, council. This came from none of us. This was the city staff recommendation to try to streamline our government process, which is what our job is to do when we can. Now, if we don't like this, we don't have to approve any of it. But if we do like it, then we need to use some thought in how we approach this and what the actual intent of this is. And so if I know Mr. Pirtle had a really big concern about not being able to see items between $50,000 and $250,000. Well, if that's a concern, that's certainly a concern, and we want to address that concern. So what I was asked him to do is, if that's a concern, then if we can still get all of these same items that show up on our consent agenda to us 5 days before a council meeting, and you don't have an issue with the purchase, then are we okay not having to put it on the consent agenda and spend the extra money to do that and the time involved with the purchasing issue? That's one option. We still see everything that comes through. There's nothing hidden. This isn't about hiding things from people or trying to be non-transparent. This is about streamlining government. So if we can, we should. If we're not comfortable with it, then we should not. But the point of this is, none of these items that have come before us are outside the city budget, which we've already approved. So you're basically approving the city budget twice. And if you want to be more concerned about what's in the city budget, do that before the budget's passed, not after the budget's passed. Because once it's passed, those department heads, those departments have a set budget. So they're not going above and beyond the budget that's already there. So we're basically approving the budget twice, is what we're doing. So if that concern is there that we don't like the budget of a department, then let's address that before September, when the budget process takes place starting in April, when we start the budget process. So that's something I think we need to evaluate, is what are we trying to do here as a council, and what are we trying to accomplish for city staff? Because, for instance, nothing on the consent agenda got pulled tonight, and I don't know, it's not about purchasing. Mr. Moore had a question. If you would have had that same opportunity to do this 5 days ahead of time and your question was answered, that item would not have needed to be on the consent agenda, because you were okay with it, correct?
Right.
That's kind of how I see this 5-day thing, that we all will get information on it, and if you have a concern, bring it to a vote to the council. If it's not, it will pass because we all agree that it would pass anyway. That's just my way of thinking. Once again, this isn't my idea. I don't have a dog in the fight, other than my dog is, we should be concerned about taxpayer dollars and efficiency of city government. That's what we should be concerned about. So, I mean, what are your thoughts?
One thing I think that maybe doesn't spell out everything as well as it could, we say non-competitive purchases for the city, and I was talking with Mr. Bonds yesterday, and although they're not competitive purchases for the city, my understanding is that they've actually been bid competitively. It's just by different entities that do that bidding. And so we're getting the lowest price. If we want to buy a fire truck, an entity, a state entity or a local entity somewhere has already bid fire trucks and found the lowest price fire truck. Is that correct?
True. That is through the
And I
cooperative
think that
purchase
would be
agreements.
good to be in there so that people would realize this is not something we're going out and getting our best buddy to,
It's true.
buy it from. So that's one thing I think that
Very
I want the
valid statement.
I think that I want the city to understand or the citizens of the city to understand, this stuff has been bid, and this is the only thing that you will be buying are these non-competitive.
That's it.
That's it. Nothing, no land purchases.
They all come to the council, and all competitive bids come to the council.
And in the proposed ordinance, it doesn't say non-competitive purchases. It says purchases not, that by state or federal statute do not require competitive bidding process.
Right.
So I think that covers your.
But it still says not, it doesn't really say that they've already been previously competitively bid. So I think that's information that the citizens probably would want to know.
Some of the questions I'm getting is, why such a significant increase? Now, if I'm just a citizen sitting out there and not up here, those are the questions that are coming to me. Why does it need to be increased from 50 to $250,000? And will these purchases be made without our knowledge? I mean, without the council knowing what's happening, that we're not being informed? And, you know, we've been put in a position to represent the taxpayers, and this is their money. So how do we?
Well, that's what this says. You'll get every purchase that's going to happen between $50,000 and $250,000 in writing to you 5 days before any council meeting ever takes place.
And if we don't like it, we get to open? for
It goes before the agenda.
Okay, that's what.
But if you do like it, and you don't have a problem with it, then the attorneys don't have to sit there and prepare the documents to put on the consent agenda. They don't have to wait the another 5 days to get it on. They can do it then and there. Does that make sense?
It makes sense that, yeah.
But
that have a
nothing will
5-day
go
window
through
now to-
without every council member having the exact same knowledge that you have now. It's just basically showing up on the consent agenda before the consent agenda. And you're okaying it by saying, I don't have an objection, or it does not have to show up on the agenda, on the formal agenda. That's what you're doing. And I think we should see things. We should never, but in that case, we're not checking things under $50,000 either. That's just as significant to me as anything. I mean, it's all significant money. So we just need to find out where our comfort level is and say, we're still going to be looking at every expenditure that we have in the past. We can just do it on an informal basis instead of a formal basis if that saves time and money. If it saves time and money, then we should do it. As long as we're still seeing the same data, nothing is going past us that we wouldn't have seen anyway. Am I understanding that correctly, Mr. Bonds?
Yes, and then we're also posting it as we do our normal public postings.
Yeah, but I would point out, I think that's probably the only difference that I would really see in transparency and notice. We're posting it, but like Dave mentioned last time, that, you know, he has people that specifically look at the agenda and they contact him with questions. If we're posting it here and posting it online just 5 days before you do it, that's not as likely to be seen as, you know, agendas that get circulated. I don't know that
Well, the
makes.
agenda's only posted 5 days ahead of time.
Right, but.
Friday to Thursday.
But it gets emailed out on the the normal blast, and people look for it and ask specific questions, probably.
If you sign up to get notifications.
It would go out in that
you
same
get
way?
You get the same way.
okay.
It's the
All
same,
right.
if you
All
got
right.
it, if you got it on the email, you're going to get this the same way.
Okay,
So, I mean, I see it as being
an extra agenda in the
it
middle.
is, it
In the
really
middle
is.
of
Yeah.
weeks.
Can I kind of review the timeline here? We post our agendas the Friday before the council meeting.
Yeah.
That's right.
So you, staff, would have to know if we want anything on the consent agenda by that day or the day before, Thursday.
We'd get it on Monday.
And so
And have
we.
5 days to put it on the agenda.
We'd get our notification, it would go on the website Monday.
Right.
You would have to have been notified by Friday.
We would do it, there's 2 weeks between the
Right.
council meetings, so we do it the week before the council meeting. And so
Yeah.
it'd be we would let you know this coming up Monday.
Yes.
Yes,
So
so-
basically, we essentially have a 13-day
Yes.
window.
Yes.
And
To do this.
it would be posted on the website also, so
Right.
any citizen that had a comment and wanted to contact us about
Right.
it and
Right.
say, why are you spending this money?
Yes,
Could do that.
absolutely.
And then it will also be somehow blasted out with the agenda, so
Sure.
everybody who
It's
get the
virtually going to
copy.
be like 2 agendas. We'll send out one on the
This is
Monday
double
after the council
transparency.
meeting.
That's what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I have a question then, because originally, it seemed like we were doing it to become efficient. So have we taken something that was meant to make something easier and then added a bunch of new stuff to make it, right?
Sounds
Should we
like it
just
was
leave it
less work
alone?
before it was
Right.
No, because the attorneys have to prepare this is where the work comes in. To prepare these things to go on the consent agenda, that's where the work
And
comes
sta-
in.
and staff.
And staff, that's what I'm saying. So if we say we're good with it, and there's no heartache with it, which was, how many of those, of the bazillion that we did last year that we actually said we wanted to take off the agenda? It was very few. I mean,
There were no questions.
it's insignificant number.
Of the 32, there were no questions.
Right.
None, not a single one of the 32 that this would have affected. So in essence, we could have eliminated 32 issues where staff and attorneys prepared something, but we still get to see it
Sure.
in advance, and we either okay it or we say, I want to discuss this in open council, and it goes on the agenda, just like that.
Right. And there's also a delay in the time period of when it actually is voted on before we can actually purchase it too. So that's an efficiency in the process also.
Yeah, okay. So
just
that
to
would be
keep-
helped
To
by,
keep it simple and clear, any purchases between 50 and 250,000, it will be on the agenda prior to that we can discuss if we disagree. Okay.
not on the agenda, but you would get
On the agenda,
notice.
yeah.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
250 is something that could be discussed if you
Right,
don't feel
250
comfortable
is
with
If you
that.
want a different number,
Yeah.
make it a different number. It doesn't matter the number, as long as you're seeing what you want to see.
Right.
It could be $3 if you see everything below $3. It can be 3 million if you want to see everything above 3 million. The point is, we should have our eyes on it, and we should be comfortable with it. And if we are, move it forward. If we're not, discuss it in open session. Because I think that's what we're here to do, is to be the watchdog, if you want, of the city funds. And so this isn't trying to hide, this actually is actually more
Yeah, I
transparent.
think you would be pointing it out more than.
More
just on the
transparent than we have
consent
ever
agenda.
been.
That is true.
And we're not giving any discrepancy or any more power to the city manager because it still is under our perusal. If we say no, it's still a no.
And there are checks and balances
All the way down
throughout
the
the
line.
system.
Yes.
And once again, remember,
More checks.
these are within items that have already been budgeted, that we've already approved in the city budget. So we're approving it for the second time. And once again, I want to stress, and I encourage you all, if you're concerned about the budget, do that before September, because that's when once the budget's finalized, those numbers aren't going to change, or they shouldn't change. So get as involved as you want to in the city budget process. It's fascinating.
You think so?
Yeah, the first time, and then it's a labor of love after that.
That's right.
So, I just want us to be doing things with the right intention and the right motives for our citizens, and I think that's what we're doing here. Any other discussion on this?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm comfortable with 250,000, but I'll toss out 150,000 if that gives anybody up here a warmer, fuzzier feeling.
Well, I just want to emphasize, my biggest concern was that the citizens felt like there wasn't enough transparency. And I tell you what, I mean, this is going to be more transparent than it already is. Everybody will get a look at it 2 weeks before the meeting, and then everybody who gets a copy of the agenda will get a copy of it, and they can call any one of us and say, what in the heck are you doing with this here?
Exactly.
So-
And then we just put it on the agenda, just like we always have. But if we save 32 of those things, and we only put 3 on the agenda, well, we save time and money for city staff and for citizens of Longview. But if you want to put all 32 of them on there, put all 32 of them on there. That's what we're supposed to do. If you have a concern, bring it up. And that's our job.
And the only thing on there is the non-competitive purchases.
Yes.
Yes.
I want to emphasize that again.
That's what always goes on our consent agenda,
Right.
basically.
I don't have any problem with the 250.
Yeah.
The number is insignificant. We're going to see everything. You're going to see everything, no matter where we put that number. You're going to still see every
One spot
dollar
or the
that's spent
other.
between 50 and whatever number that is. The number doesn't really matter, because we're going to see it all.
I know in speaking with some of my constituents, they would be happier with, they would feel warmer and fuzzier with a lower number. But as you see, we're going to be very transparent, so they'll be able to see everything
And I'll
anyway.
be honest, if it was not going to be the way it is, I wouldn't be comfortable with 250 either.
Okay.
Because then it takes a whole lot more work on our part to make sure we're doing our due diligence to go out and search that out. But this way, it's going to be right there before us. All you got to do is read and decipher, and then talk to your constituents. So I'm good with it.
I will make a motion to approve.
And I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We're now to items of community interest. Mr. Moore.
Who has the awesomest beard? Beard contest is going to be sponsored by Eastman Credit Union and Longview News Journal. There's going to be 5 categories of beards you can see on the screen: long beard, short trim beard, goatee, best awesomest Methvin lookalike beard. Contestants will have until March 27th to submit their photos of their beards. I have no idea what the prizes will be or how embarrassing it will be to the contestants, but it ought to be interesting. And I also this is my last sesquicentennial moment. Been doing it for 2 years and it's come to a close, but throughout the year next year, I would encourage people to check on sesquicentennial events on Facebook, facebook.com/Longview150. Second, report to you on the Food for Fines program. This year, we collected 1,853 items in lieu of fines. And I just want to thank Jennifer Eldridge and the library staff for continuing to sponsor this program and carrying it out. They do a fantastic job. And then lastly, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a happy 2020.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Nutty.
Same here. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and may God bless you and your family.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Wade.
During the Thanksgiving holidays, and I'm sorry if you don't have anything. Whoa! You're good, because I didn't provide that. But during the Thanksgiving holidays, we celebrated Thanksgiving at Broughton Recreation Center, and it was an amazing event. Mr. Winsell Coleman left before I could say thank you to him for being there with the NAACP, but they were there in support, and our very own Ms. Edwards was there helping out. Thank you again, Ms. Edwards, and to the city staff, Mr. Karen, and the staff members that stayed on that day and worked. I'm so grateful for it, but everyone that was there, it was an amazing day. So to the mayor, Mr. Bonds, thank you guys for your support and making that possible.
Thank you for
Yep.
stepping up, Ray.
Thank you,
I'm very
sir.
proud of you, my friend.
Good. Thank you.
Proud to call you a friend.
Thank you, sir.
Good job.
Thank you.
Ms.
And that's
Ishihara.
it.
I have an upcoming town hall meeting Thursday, January 16th at 6 p.m. at Winterfield United Methodist Church. Please come join me there. We'll have a short presentation and a time to get some of your feedback or comments. If you're a District 4 resident, please try and attend. We love to see you and hear from you. If you are not a District 4 resident, you are also welcome to attend and just come hang out and give any feedback that you would like. So please join me then.
Mr. Wright.
Yes. As you can see, the lights, it's a great, being on the city council, I've seen more and more of what people in this city do to improve the lives of everybody around them. And I am fortunate enough, and I spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, at our last meeting, but I am so fortunate to have Carmela Davis and Mark Atkinson in my district. And this is what they do for the community every year, what Carmela does. Mark wouldn't want to take credit for it. But Carmela does this light show every year out on 259. She does it for donations only. It costs them a lot of money. They do not make money on this. And they just do a wonderful job. And Carmela, actually, it was kind of a good thing that Andy recognize the Ambucs tonight, because Carmela is a big proponent of Ambucs too, and she just does a wonderful job, and I want to thank her for that, and Mark also. And Mr. Wade, that was a fantastic thing you did with your Thanksgiving dinner. I think that was, I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but it was a fantastic thing.
Thank you, sir.
And I do want to wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays.
Can we please excuse Mr. Purtle? He's not here tonight. Motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Great. Mr. Bonds?
I don't have anything.
Well, Christmas, New Year's holidays. We're closed Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day. Due to Christmas and New Year's, sanitation collection for Wednesday and Thursday will be shifted to Thursday and Friday for both weeks. Safe ride home with Longview Transit, December 31st. And thank you for R&K Distributors and Longview Transit for providing that for citizens of Longview. Upcoming events, we have Art Walk Downtown, which is right now. We have Holiday Bach Lunch, 12 to 1:15 on Friday, December 13th, which is tomorrow. We have 'Twas the Night Before Christmas at 6 p.m. on Sunday, December the 15th. So for more information about these events, go to longviewtexas.gov/calendars. And for more information about city community events, go to visit longviewtexas.com/events. Okay. Well, I want to just bring one thing up real quickly because I feel it's my obligation to do that. And I am in no way being negative, but the News Journal ran a story last week about the Walk of Honor meeting that was held, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands how they misquoted me, and that is that's unfortunate, but those things happen. Anybody can make a mistake. I don't think it was intentional. I hope certainly it was not intentional because I don't think that would be their MO. But unfortunately, a lot of people got the misconception that I said that I would override the Walk of Honors committee on their decision, and I said I would specifically not override them. That's what they're there for. That would undermine the authority of the committee, and that's their job to provide information to us that we will use. I didn't like the headline because it acts as if we're at odds with each other, with the committee that I appointed, and we are not because I gave them full authority. They didn't rebuff me. It was a question. I asked them a question, and they answered the question. It was not a directive. It was not an order. It was a question. And the question was asked and answered. It wasn't really newsworthy. It was just a question. And they were kind enough to have a meeting because I was having a discussion with the governor. I wanted to ask them if they thought that would be a good idea to include him and before my meeting, and I went through the right channels. And I could have just asked the governor on my own, and I didn't do that because that's not the right way you do things. So I went to the right channel to the chairman of the committee and said, what do you think about this? It's a question. And he said, we'll have a special meeting, let you know what they say. And they said, we want to keep it the way it is. I said, great. So it was never even mentioned to the governor. So I don't like the way they portrayed this as being something negative or ugly because it wasn't. And I'm sure they have proofreaders. I mean, I know they do. But maybe the proofreaders don't know the intent of the story. But I know Mr. Isaac, who wrote the story, knew the intent because I know he talked to Sean and he talked to me. I know Mr. Brock knew the intent because he talked to Sean. And I knew the publisher, Mr. McCain, knew the intent because I talked to the publisher. And every one of them knew that I was in no way rebutting or overturning the committee's decision. That was not even an issue. It was a question and an answer, and it was done. So that being said, I want everybody to know that that's not what happened. The committee's decision will stand, and they'll bring their recommendations to us as they normally do, and we will take them as we always do. So that's done and said, so I'm through with that. Now, the chart, and they did make a correction. I'm sorry, they did put a correction in the newspaper. Okay, look. The headline is huge. The correction is tiny, tiny, tiny. But I guess that's what happens when you own the newspaper. You can do it however you want to. But I do at least thank them for correcting the story. I would love to see the big headline saying, boy, did we mess that one up. But I guess that wasn't going to happen. So maybe they'll put themselves as a duster tomorrow in the paper. What do you think? I doubt it. Okay. So the upcoming charter school that we've talked about, where the City of Longview is partnering with LISD and the other schools on this charter update, I want to kind of bring you up to speed. This Advanced Manufacturing Academy early graduation, the city is going to now be providing a workforce development program for over 1,300 students with open enrollment emphasizing internships and apprenticeships. With also an adult education component. So what this really means is we're going to be able to, as a city, say that we have an amazing workforce development program. So businesses looking to come to Longview, I'd like to see a matched program like that anywhere, to be able to say we have 1,300 kids involved in a workforce development program that we can provide workers for your company, if you want to come here. I think it's a fantastic thing. Open to students from anywhere, any district, private school, homeschool, doesn't matter. Open enrollment. So I think this is going to be a huge advancement for this Advanced Manufacturing Academy to be able to provide this and promote this as a city where it looks, really, really good for us as well in the business community. So I appreciate all those involved with making this a reality and moving this thing forward. So thank you to all those involved. I'm excited it's going to be about this. Now, the Media Development Group, just so you all know, they received an award. We talked about this a while back, but I wanted to just present it tonight. We have their, Mr. Bond, you hold that for me, please? Sure. Oh, good. Let me have the camera point to you. The Media Development Department received an award for the first place in Texas for 2018 State of the City Address video. Student responses about our city help deliver the message and gain insight on what the next generation is thinking about for the future in an interesting and entertaining way. A lot of preparation and planning occurred to make it a success, including cooperation with area schools and students. And I know I was involved with this because we had all the students up here with multiple sessions where we came in and did video and asked some questions. And I mean, it was an absolute blast. For me, I know for Scott and Terry and Sean, it was a nightmare because I'm terrible with those. I had so much fun with them. I got off script. We just had a great time. But for Sean Hara, Terry Miller, Scott Shellhorse, great job with our media team, bringing home the first place award. And Texas Association of Telecommunication Officers and Advisors, also known as TUTUA. Whatever. Okay, great job, guys. I hope we do it again next year. Y'all are awesome. Keep up the good work. Okay, survey time. Which of the following is your favorite trail in Longview? Aiken, Cargill, Borman, Juliana Trail, Guthrie Trail, or haven't been able to enjoy any of these in Longview? Well, overwhelmingly, Borman Trail. Great trail. I love it. But 26% haven't even enjoyed the trails. And that's the 26%. Y'all got to get out some, gang. I mean, these trails are awesome. And they're going to be expanded with the advent of the new system that's going to be connecting the whole trail system, have 10 continuous miles here pretty soon. So, get out and enjoy our trails. It's a great place to see people. You'll always find someone you know out there. It's an amazing opportunity we have here in Longview. So thanks to the Parks guys for all the job and the work you do on the trails of keeping them habitable and transportationable. We appreciate that very much. Okay, fun question. When do you take down your holiday decorations? The day we complete celebrating, prior to New Year's Day, after New Year's Day, whenever I get around to it, or I didn't decorate this year. Well, you buy humbugs, 12%, you need to get decorating as well and go see our trails. It's the same 12 to 26% right there. Come on, jeez. 43% after New Year's Day. That's my percentage. I'm that 43%. I love the holiday decorations. The city looks so great right now. I'm so excited about how festive we are. Downtown looks good. The neighborhoods look great. It's fun to drive around. It's a great time of year to be in Longview, to be anywhere, but especially in Longview. And it's the hustle and bustle season, and I get that. But man, take time to enjoy it, to relax a little bit, and to make someone else's day. Because when you make someone else's day, you'll make your day a brighter day also. So I appreciate everyone here in attendance, those that are watching. I wish you all a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, a continued safe and healthy community, and look forward to the coming years ahead. So with that, we shall be adjourned.